Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, a new nation is officially being added to the NATO alliance, but it is not Ukraine. Plus, a new report shows there's been fewer law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty compared to 2022.
And it continues to be hotter than normal as we head through the middle of the week. I'm breaking it all down coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Ukraine's president is arguing his country will make NATO stronger while expressing disappointment the military alliance is not ready to extend a membership invitation to them. President Biden is among the Western state leaders at the NATO Summit in Lithuania, where it was announced that Sweden will become the newest nation to join. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
Thanks, Lithuania. Thank you very much.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky pressed his case for joining NATO in Lithuania Tuesday, telling a pro-Ukrainian crowd Ukraine will make NATO stronger. Earlier, he blasted the military alliance for not setting a timetable for his country to join, calling it absurd.
We will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when allies agree and conditions are met.
The head of NATO told reporters member nations agreed to change Ukraine's membership path from 2 steps to 1, but isn't going further right now because of Russia's war.
When a war is going on, that's not the time for making Ukraine a full member of the alliance.
The summit kicked off with applause for Sweden's bid to join NATO. The membership breakthrough came after Turkey dropped its objections. President Biden hailed the development in a meeting with his Turkish counterpart.
Thank you for your diplomacy and your courage to take that on.
Turkey's president didn't speak publicly about reversing course on Sweden, but the change is thought to be tied to Turkey's efforts to buy American F-16 fighter jets and join the European Union. The White House has expressed support for both. Sweden is following Finland into the alliance, and the Biden administration says the 2 additions send a signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin that his war in Ukraine has united the West against him. But a Kremlin spokesperson says it's NATO's expansion that in part led to the current situation. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
President Biden is scheduled to meet with Ukraine's president at the summit tomorrow. A group of Georgians selected to be grand jurors today may soon consider charges against former President Donald Trump and his allies for their reported roles in trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election. At the center of the case is Trump's infamous phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State. CBS's Nicole Killian is in Atlanta with more on that from outside the courthouse.
Today is the first day of the grand jury term here in Fulton County. 2 grand juries will be selected to serve in the months of July and August, with one of them potentially deciding whether former President Donald Trump should be indicted for a 3rd time. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis was on hand throughout the proceedings. She has been investigating whether the former president and his allies interfered in the 2020 election in Georgia when he called Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and asked him to find votes to overturn President Biden's victory. Willis will present evidence to the grand jury and has indicated she will announce a charging decision in the coming weeks. Earlier this year, a separate special purpose grand jury investigated the case and issued a final report. It stated that a majority of jurors believe that perjury was committed and recommended that the district attorney seek appropriate indictments. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Atlanta.
Willis has indicated that potential indictments in the case could come between July 31st and August 18th. Each group has 23 residents of Fulton County, which includes Atlanta. A majority of the group hearing evidence against Trump would need to vote in favor of an indictment. Yesterday, Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama doubled down on remarks he previously made about whether white nationalists should be allowed to serve in the military. This comes after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called on Tuberville in May to denounce white nationalism as un-American and stop his hold on military nominations. Here's what Tuberville had to say.
Listen, I'm totally against racism. And if the Democrats want to say that white nationalists are racist, I'm totally against that too.
Previous backlash stemmed from comments Tuberville made in an interview with an Alabama radio station. When asked if he believes white nationalists should be allowed in the military, he responded, quote, "I call them Americans." Schumer had a recent rebuttal for Tuberville, saying the senator from Alabama is wrong. Kentucky senior Senator Mitch McConnell responded to Tuberville's comments, saying they were unacceptable. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, white supremacy is simply unacceptable in the military and in our whole country.
Fellow Republicans joined McConnell in saying there is no place for white nationalism in their party. Rudy Giuliani is negotiating a resolution to a lawsuit brought on against him by two former Georgia election workers. Wandre Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman sued the former New York mayor for defaming them following the 2020 election. They have already won nearly $90,000 from him for attorney's fees. In a court filing late Friday, Moss and Freeman's legal team said Giuliani's lawyer approached them on Thursday to discuss a potential negotiated resolution. A new report shows the number of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty is down compared to this time last year. The mid-year law enforcement fatality report shows 52 officers have died in the line of duty in the first half of 2023. That's down nearly 66% from last year. 6 of those deaths happened during domestic disturbance calls. 5 officers were killed investigating suspicious persons or circumstances. 4 were killed during traffic stops.
They never really know what it is they're going to encounter. And whatever that situation is unfolds in real time right in front of them. Again, often tragically measured in the lives of too many men and women every single year who die in the line of duty.
Unfortunately, we've had officers killed in our region in both years. Officer COVID-19 deaths are also down drastically, which contribute to the lower statistics this year. This time last year, there were 77 COVID deaths. This year, there have only been 2. Alexander says they use this data to better prepare officers for response training. Infamous former Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes could be released from prison early. Holmes was convicted early last year on multiple charges of defrauding investors while running the failed blood testing startup Theranos. She was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in prison. Holmes reported to prison in late May, but according to a projected release date report posted by the Bureau of Prisons, she could be let out of prison nearly 2 years early. A 37-day stay is granted to Brian Kohberger's legal team. Kohberger is accused of fatally stabbing 4 students from the University of Idaho last year. Judge John Judge granted the stay to allow the defense time to go over grand jury materials. Court documents claim Kohberger's lawyers could renew the notion to stay proceedings after it finishes its review. The trial is scheduled to start in October.
Been a beautiful day out there today. Still plenty of sunshine, low 80s. As a matter of fact, very comfortable conditions out there, especially for the middle of July. Temperatures low to mid 80s, even a few upper 80s sneaking in. Monticello's at 87, Harlan's at 88. Everybody else low to mid 80s out there. So a little below average for this time of year, but some folks like Middlesboro now checking in at 85. Same thing with Manchester, right at where we should be this time of year. Dew points are in the upper 50s and for the most part lower 60s. That's the best direct measurement of moisture at the surface of the atmosphere. So yeah, we're actually not looking too bad. Once we get these numbers up into the 60s, you start to feel it. Once you get to 70, it's pretty darn humid. Once you get to 75, you just might as well drag the oars out of the car to try to get into work or back to the house because it's got way too much liquid in the air. Or not liquid so much as water vapor. In any case, yes, this is in motion. Just fair weather clouds out there this evening or this afternoon. Next 12 hours through this evening, we're falling down into the mid-60s with plenty of clear skies out there tonight, just a few passing clouds. The heat, though, continues to get cranked up as we head into tomorrow. The latest in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thanks. Scientists called to testify on Capitol Hill about the origins of COVID-19 had to defend themselves against claims of bribery and coercion. Republicans claim that Drs. Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins steered scientists away from the idea that the virus was created in a Wuhan, China lab. But the scientists who testified to the House Select Committee on the coronavirus pandemic said it was evidence that disputed the lab theory and pointed toward a natural origin. The Biden administration proposed measures to try and make child care more affordable. It would cap child care copays at no more than 7% of a family's income, and it would encourage states to waive copays for families at or below 150% of the poverty level. The goal is to make it easier for families to apply for aid and to make siblings of children who receive the subsidy eligible for benefits. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, teaching kids the basics of money management can help them achieve financial success later in life. I have some tips on how to talk to your child about finances.
And yet more showers and storms. Well, they're not far away, but before they arrive, we're getting toasty. I'm breaking it down coming up.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen, customized to the categories you choose.